A 1 2, a 1 2, a 1 2, a 1 2, 1 2, 1 2, 1 2. We are back, man. A special live for the members. This is something that I've been trying to put together a few days ago, and this is, you know, something that I wanted to do for episode 600. However, episode 600, if you guys are watching this right now, is currently out. But I get into a lot of flack, or I get a lot of flack for some of the, you know, the POVs or the things that I cover in the scene. You know what I'm saying? They say people be saying, "Oh, you cover too much effery and what's going on." Da 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 da. So I figured, you know what? Let me do something where we can give back to the community, have some fruitful discussions about things that are going on here in our city, and I got a group of people together so that we can have this conversation, and people who are qualified to have it, probably way more qualified than myself. So I'm going to introduce everybody one by one, and we're going to get into it. So I'm going to start off with a gentleman representing the West End. He's been over there in the Jane and Finch community doing a lot of good things in the community as far as community activism. He is an artist. He is a producer. He has done a lot of different things in the scene. I'd like to bring to the stage my homie, Sling Dads, in the mother effing building. Welcome, Sling Dads. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yeah, you don't know. Respect everybody. Don't know. Mm-hmm.
Now, next, I would also like to introduce a gentleman who's been doing a lot of amazing things. His company is called Keep6.org. He's been out here helping people to not recidivize and stay out of the system. And, he's been very, very heavy on social media with his podcast as well as their social media presence. Representing from Keep6.org, I would like to welcome Richard Miller to the building. What's up, brother?
Hello, good man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming through. Now, I'm gonna get into the artist section of stuff here. Even though I already introduced an artist over here in Sling Dads, but these gentlemen, this gentleman right here, he is a rapper, producer. He's also been out here helping a lot of young people via the Remix program. I would like to welcome Rich Kid to the building. What up, Rich Kid?
What's good? Everybody can hear me okay, right?
Yep, you sound nice and clear.
All right.
Also, artist who has been all around the world touring with himself as well as the legendary Cardinal Official. He's also very, very integral in helping people to not recidivize in the prison system through the FU program and a multitude of different things. I would like to welcome my homie Solitaire to the building. What's going on?
Okay, you didn't tell me you were putting together a legendary panel like this.
I try.
Salute to everybody on the panel and respect you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming through. Now, last but not least, I've had the pleasure to interview this woman multiple times. We've gotten into some great conversations about the system, and she's helped a lot of people to stay out of the system via criminal law. She has her own podcast, and her social media presence is crazy. I would also like to welcome Jordana Goldlist to the building.
Thank you so much for having me. Nice to see everybody.
No, thank you. Thanks for coming through. So let's get into it. There's a lot of different things that I've been noticing in the scene, and I feel like you guys are more experts, like I was saying, than me to talk about this type of stuff. First, I want to get into the homicide rate, okay? I was seeing a statistic the other day on the news that the homicide rate has been down considerably. Is this a true thing, or are they underreporting this? And anybody can jump in and start wherever, it's a free-for-all with this panel here.
I don't know. I mean, I can't speak to the stats. Of in terms of what's going on in terms of murder rate and stuff like that. But I think that there is definitely an issue with a lot of community-based problems, such as not being job ready a major concern. Not compounded by the fact that there's not really a whole lot of jobs for young people available. I mean, there's a lot of you know. Lack of education of like pursuing higher education. That's an issue. So I don't want to get caught up in like the statistics of the murder rate and what's being reported versus what's actually happening on the ground. I think there's a lot of community level issues. There's a lot of cultural issues that are we really need to start critically addressing as a community, not resorting to like the rhetoric and counting statistics. And I know that everybody on the panel can attest to that. There's a serious problem with our young people not being able to get onto a path for a long-term career. There's a lot of hopelessness. There's a lot of challenges that are facing our youth in the educational system. So those are the things we have to start addressing seriously.
No, that's well said. Well said. Anybody else got something to add to that?
I'm also not sure about the statistics. I do think that actual homicides might be down, but I think we're seeing an increase of really violent offenses among youth. Carjackings, home invasions. I think these are the sort of issues that are through the roof, and it's the same underlying factors that we're going into, the spike in homicides in previous years.
Right. I've noticed one thing because, and I want to talk about the crime rate going up and the spike that you just mentioned, but is it actually happening that the homicide rate went down, or is that just something that the media has fed us? Because from what Solitaire is saying, I feel like you're saying there's not really a difference from what you're seeing.
You asking me?
No, I'm just saying from what you said earlier, you're saying that you didn't really see a difference on ground level. But from the statistic I said, it's seen as, I think it went down 17%. Or no, there was 17 only for this year in comparison to maybe previous years where there would have been like double. So what do you think is attributed to that?
I mean, I don't want to downplay the importance of keeping these statistics, but I mean, I don't think that the murder rate going up or down really addresses the root causes of the problems that we're facing in the community. So I mean, speaking honestly, I don't have any criteria that can say whether or not those statistics are being accurately reported, and what that means as far as crime in general, as far as like Jordana was saying, home invasions, kids being, when I say young boys and young kids being recruited to go OT, on these missions and stuff like that. I think that it's not simple enough to reflect on just the murder rate as a factor of the issues that are at the root cause of violence, right? Maybe there's things have calmed down in terms of altercations between ops. Like there's a season for everything. I'd be more interested in, if they're reporting that the murder rate is down, why would they? The people who are keeping the statistics, what would they attribute that decrease in the murder rate to? You know what I mean? And if it's something that they're doing, over policing, or there's something that they're actually doing, community policing, then maybe we can tap into that as far as to keep on that trend. But I think that's just, we can't really focus on just the murders as significant and serious as that is, right?
Now, and sorry, hold on, let me unmute Rich's mic there. My bad. 1 second. Sorry, what are you saying, Rich?
Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm saying that like the focus really shouldn't be on like whether.
We're losing you on the reception. Ooh, we lost him.
Come on, Richard, get better signal. Where's he at? Move around. I see you in your car.
Well,
I mean, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't know. I mean, I feel like he was kind of jumping in to say what I was saying, where it's like, I don't like to get And what the media loves to do too is focus in on the statistics, and on the same way that we could use statistics to embellish the fact that what the police are doing is working, is the same way that they'll use it against us when the murder rate goes up. Say, oh, the murder rate is high, so that's going to justify why we need to increase the funding for police, and we need to reduce, the amount of people that are getting bail, and the conversation kind of goes into these really macro visions of what the real challenges are. So I starting off with the murder rate, that's a factor for sure. But I think that the picture that what we're trying to address as community organizations like the Forgiveness Project, like Keep Six, and so on, is the multitude of factors that are affecting why these issues become prevalent in our communities in the first place. And these are things that we've been fighting for 20, 30 years. There's people who came before me who were trying to address the same issues that our community faces. And I think that it's time for a reckoning. It's time for us to really, as a community, not necessarily looking externally, but looking internally to how are we contributing to either the solution, or what are we doing to contribute to the root causes. And I think keeping track of murder statistics, I'm not saying that's not important, but it's definitely only one factor that we have to look at in terms of the whole community.
Yeah. Rich, I feel like you wanted to add something earlier. Richard Miller.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that, thank you. We have to look at, it might say that statistic might say that the murder is going down, but realistically, you have to look at the overall picture of what's been taking place. The murders have been happening with a different generation, the youth, right? So is that what they're looking at when they're saying, or are they looking at the murder rates going down when it came to a certain age group of individuals, of crime, of murder, and so forth, right? Solitaire brought up an important issue, was the fact that we are very much aware that there's certain things that criteria or issues regarding these murders: poverty, education, mental health. So, we have to look at a larger picture of all these things in account.
Oh, that's a fact. That's a fact. And it was mentioned earlier that the violent crimes and stuff has gone up. What do y'all think attributed to the violent crimes going up? Like, I'm talking about, I'm seeing places getting torched, home invasions where they're just running up in the place. They're not even looking for the cars anymore. They're just looking to just violate people. So, like, why has that gone up so exponentially?
Well, we're in a situation now where cost of living, and again, it comes down to these youth don't have opportunities. There's no programs for them. There's no jobs, so they're going on the other side of the fence, man. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that.
I think also with the emergence of social media and just doing stupid shit makes you get more validation, more views, more attention. That's dopamine for kids. It's dopamine for adults, right? So it's like that attention, what I mean? That, like, if some guy like Kai Cenat does something, a lot of these youths will do it too, just to get that same viral attention. You know what I mean? So even a lot of the crimes that have been happening, the reason why a lot of us know about it is because a lot of these kids have been filming that stuff too. Like, they be doing these crimes and actually be showing it on social media. So I think the attraction to getting attention is also a factor in it.
Oh, that's facts. That's facts. What about us as social media, like as a blog page, podcaster, and stuff like that? We get a lot of blame for adding to the way that the drama has gone on in the streets. Is there any truth to that, or would have been happening anyway?
100%. You have to look at it. You are, in a sense, you're somewhat given that opportunity for validation to these individuals, right? So if these kids are able to do something, and they have somebody like We Love Hip Hop talking about it. Well, they've just got a new We Love Hip Hop platform, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
Friday,
Yeah.
I feel you set this up like a little intervention for yourself. I think you want us all to tell you that the images
You're
and
doing too much.
the content that you put out is kind of negative and it influences young people to be like some of the like the street orientated rappers that you feature. I think you want us all collectively to tell you that. Is that not?
Um.
It's not. Is this not why you did that?
You know what?
No, sorry. I'm just being messy.
I feel like there's a little bit of that, but it's not really because I don't really believe that I'm pushing only negative images. You know what I'm saying? Like if you go through my interview catalog, the majority of my interview catalog, especially over the last 2 years, has not been a lot of gangster rappers. But
For sure.
because the most popular thing on the channel usually will be something gangster oriented, that's the label that we get.
For sure.
I
You know
don't
what I'm
think it
saying?
matters if it's from a negative or a positive spin. I think that guys that end up in my office, they're excited to just be featured for some of them on social media, period. And then obviously there's some guys who want nothing more than to just stay out of the news as much as possible. But I think for some of the kids that are, involved in things that we see as being so extreme, the idea is that they will be featured on some news channel. If it's not We Love Hip Hop, it's Six Buzz, it's whoever's going to put out the information to the public. They just want to be seen. And I think that goes back to what we were saying about what some of these underlying issues are, right? Why are we in a society where kids feel like they need to commit serious crimes of violence in order to be seen? I think the goal should be creating a platform or an atmosphere where they can be seen doing something positive.
Now, that's a great point. And I want to give a little bit of pushback as far as with the audience, because the audience, they gravitate towards a certain type of content, right?
That's
Like
fine.
as a provider of both types of content, positive and like negative news stories and interviews and stuff, I can literally see the difference in the analytics on what one is choosing over the other. How is it can we change where maybe the audience doesn't have this insatiable like thirst for drama?
I truly believe you train your audience, right? So I don't think that it's necessarily as easy as everybody wants to hear violence or everybody wants to hear drug selling music. That's just the I feel like that's a almost like a cop out because there's plenty of hip hop media and pages that like and YouTube kind of channels that I go to that represent like different side of hip hop, right? I think it's just you have to find a way to be able to crack that market. Maybe that's not necessarily the biggest thing in Toronto or the biggest thing in Canada, but there are people still over 30 that exist that like hip hop and like even there's hip hop over 30 that's violent in itself, but I mean like there's people that like different things and you got to be able to crack that market. I think it's just easier to go with the Toronto politics. So it's like a lot of these pages or the blogs or Instagram media that covers Toronto rap. It's the music of the generation, and it's just easier because it's like it's made so much because the kids from the hood make that stuff, and also it's like they're influenced by a lot of things going on in America. Let's be real, we've always been influenced by American music, American culture, American style, and mixed it with ours. So a lot of it
No,
is
that's a fact.
seeing things in Chicago, drill music, New York drill music, those kind of things influence the youth of today because some of the artists that they listen to are in that genre and they talk about those things. So, that's part of what's going on.
No, that's big facts. I want to switch gears for a quick second because there was a video that came out a few months ago now, and everybody who's pretty much an expert on what goes on in the prisons and stuff like that at this point too. The video that exposed all of those guards doing some heinous things to the prisoners. Okay, I've had some conversations with Richard behind the scenes, and he showed me that this is it's a regular thing. You know what I'm saying? But like, have you guys witnessed this stuff? Like, I know you, Solitaire, you've been behind those walls to go see people and stuff like that. Like, is this a regular complaint of the way that the guards treat people?
I mean, the short answer is yes. I think it's
Yeah.
regular, and I'm hearing the complaints, and I'm still hearing the complaints. I've got guys who are still in Maplehurst getting illegally strip searched. So I think it's still going on. I don't think it's stopped. I think that they were exposed, and it was, treated as this isolated incident. And I think it was only because of the scale that anyone even paid attention, quite frankly.
So wait, just to get to specify, the scale meaning like just the amount of prisoners that were getting degraded at that time, because I
Yeah.
feel like this is not the first time that many prisoners got degraded. Maybe just the first time it got exposed.
No,
The first time it's
it's
exposed
yeah.
to what extent.
Yeah, I think that's the first time it ever came to light exposed wide. I can tell you right now, and I just talk from facts and lived experience. I recall being in the hearse. This would have been going back, say, maybe about in the early 2000s, late 90s. And there was a time where there was a bullet that was found in the hallway on a range, and the whole place was locked down. And we were hog-tied and sit against the wall, like what you saw there, and strip search and everything else in underwear for hours, hours. And I recall guys wetting themselves, right? So
Jesus.
that's nothing new, man. Like that's nothing new, right? It'd have been early 2000s. It was.
So why do you think we're seeing it now? Because if this is something that's been happening for years, why now the expose?
Social media, man. It's
Exactly.
a lot. It becomes a lot easier to shine a light on these issues that have been pervasive for years. I mean, you think about it, when people understood what the average person who doesn't actually have the lived experience of going to jail or knows somebody who's been to jail or is currently in jail, the average person doesn't know anything about and what happens to people when they're inside jail after beyond they get a mugshot and so is charged with whatever their charges are. They've been arrested. The average person's like, good, okay, he's they're clearing the streets of crime and that person's been arrested, and that becomes the end of that person's story. But when they're inside and they try to advocate for themselves, who's going to listen? Who's going to actually, other than people who are aware of the duality of what happens in the criminal justice system, whereas like there's the illusion of justice, and these guys are serving their time and they're paying their debt to society, and we're providing these programs and so on and so forth, because that's the narrative that the average person is going to consume on mainstream media. But the reality of it is, now then, going even deeper, there's those
Of course.
people who believe that, you're a criminal, so you deserve whatever happens to you while you're incarcerated, and deny you the human decency. You know what I'm saying? So it's an uphill battle when you're trying to advocate for people who are in prisons and jails. And I mean, yes, we acknowledge that they're in there for a reason, and a lot of the times, if not the majority of the times, but that doesn't negate them from being a human being and having basic civil rights, dignity, and the opportunity and a proper platform and resources to be able to learn something new and give them the opportunity to do something different, right? So I think it's great that there was this video that leaked where people can realize that, yeah, there is definitely a huge issue against prejudice and mistreatment within the criminal justice system.
The video didn't leak, though. It was a Tunnel Star investigation that revealed.
Oh, it was an investigation. Sorry, yeah.
It actually wasn't leaked, and it had nothing to do with social media. And I think it's more political than anything, quite frankly. I think that the liberal media wanted to expose what the conservative provincial government is doing in the jails.
I mean, when I say social media, that's how the story got proliferated, right? Like people reposting it and sharing the results of the investigation, because that's where I heard about it. So I mean, kudos that they actually somebody cared enough to expose it and formalize formally document what's been going on, as we know in a lot of cases for many years.
So
Yeah,
those guys complained to their lawyers. Their lawyers brought an application for disclosure, and the video that you saw online of those guys who are like lined up in the hallways of Maplehurst, it's actual disclosure because there was a group of lawyers who brought an application for a stay of proceedings. And then the Star got a hold of it and filed a freedom of information request in order to show the public what was happening in the jail.
Yeah, and also to add to what Jordana's saying, this, I think the Star, if I'm not mistaken, they tried to stop them from putting that out.
It's gone now.
Okay, so sorry, I don't know if you remember where you were, what you were saying, Jordana.
So all I was saying was that the Toronto Star got wind of this application that various defense lawyers were bringing in applications for stay of proceedings based on what was happening to these inmates. Toronto Star got wind of it. Toronto Star made a request for the records, and the jail, well, the province through the jail, was fighting the Toronto Star. They did not want any of this to be released, understandably, now that we've seen it. And the Star was successful. Their investigators brought a freedom of information request and court applications and were able to secure the videos that ended up being disseminated for public consumption.
It's crazy. You know what I mean? Just the fact that they wanted to conceal that so badly, like there's something to be said about what's going on behind them bars.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, like that's something that's been going on for years, right? It's new to the public, but it's something that has been going on for years. I mean, we are very much aware of it. The problem is that you have to keep in mind that individuals, once they're in those areas or behind the walls, they have limited access and limited voice, right? The first thing they're going to tell you to make a complaint, the ombudsman, you can, write the attorney general and so forth. But those complaints don't go anywhere. I had a lived experience where a scenario where the only thing happened was they had the staff had 5 days of retraining. All right, that's what I was told. But it's very difficult, and for me to get it to that extent back then, I had to give one of my lawyers a letter, and that's how the letter got to the Attorney General office back then. Right. So it's not very easy for individuals to address these issues besides their lawyers when you're in that situation.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay, I got a couple more talking points just for us here, and then I think we can wrap it here.
Okay.
There was something that happened crazy the other day where a young individual got arrested. He basically was in a parking lot and stabbed a 71-year-old woman, 14 years old. Okay, he went crazy. He was all over the place. He did an interview and basically spilled the beans and gave himself up. One of my questions about this is, how the hell did we get this far that a 14-year-old went on a rampage? Like, he was on social media doing speeding contests, all types of shit. How did we get this far?
Crash out culture.
What I was talking about earlier, technology, social media, and the need to be looked at, talked about, attention, right? Like, some people create, especially people from the hood, bro. Like Richard was saying, bro, a lot of people don't have voices and they don't feel seen. And social media has enabled, like, even just on a celebrity basis, a regular person can become a celebrity overnight, or at least feel like it. They're not a real celebrity in terms of money, but they're a real celebrity in terms of attention and, people that like you, people that hate you, the attention.
Yes.
He was seeking that kind of attention for a long time, didn't get it. And through crime and through doing certain things in the street, you get that. You get that respect, so to say.
Yeah. Sling Dad, you've been pretty quiet. You have anything to add as far as with that 14-year-old crash out?
Yeah, more saying in regards to what a lot of these guys are saying, especially rich kid social media, the cloud era, like, yeah, that has a big part in regards to, I think, being played with these kids or these young youth, because even me myself taking in the audio, at one point you hear him, saying something about, I got money, I got a rollie, like
Mm-hmm.
materialistic things is important, right? And he's also, I guess, apparently one of those missing boys that they said I was also missing. So, all of
Yes.
this plays into a big role, right? In regards to a lot of youth, them not being around and looking for some sort of acceptance in regards to some kind of a family or some kind of a acceptance in to some kind of a group, right? So,
That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Um, still on that
Yeah.
incident, right? Because a lot of people were saying that they're not going to try him as an adult. You got to understand, a murder happened, right? So it's not just an assault; a whole homicide happened.
Mm-hmm.
People are saying he won't be tried as an adult. He'll be out in 5 years. I think I want to start with you, Jordana, as somebody who's a criminal justice lawyer or a criminal defense lawyer. Do you think that that's going to happen? Will he be tried as a youth and be out in like 5 to 7 years tops? Even 3, some people are saying.
Yes. Yes. An adult sentence isn't available for him. He's too young.
But
It's
the
not even
crime is
available. He'll be
crazy.
tried as a youth. He'll be sentenced as a youth. He's going to be treated as a youth. He has to be. The Youth Criminal Justice Act does not allow for a 14-year-old to be sentenced as an adult. It's not even available for him.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Is everybody
Yeah.
okay with that?
Yo, I mean, what you're getting, the root at what you're getting at is the issues that we face in our community. I mean, this is something that I argue with people about, the concept of role models and the concept of somebody being an influencer, the concept of somebody who has a platform using it to either really try to address these things in a meaningful way or not. And I think, you know, this is not something that we're obviously, as great as this panel is, as much knowledge and wisdom there is on this panel, at the end of the day, it's his peers, it's the community ultimately that has to hold him accountable. Yeah, he's going to go to jail, and whatever that sentence is what it's going to be. What's going to happen to him while he's inside? How is he going to be supported? How is he going to be encouraged to see the mistakes that he in the poor decisions that he made, and help him to do something different? That's the culture that we have to generate and create and provide examples for, where he can find it within himself and say, I can see how my path led me to do something so horrible. But instead, what happens is that in the culture right now, we're so far gone where a lot of these kids are like, hey man, that's just the way that it is. He got caught. He got caught. It's not that what he's doing or the path that he is on and what he faced coming up that led to the point where he found that this was an acceptable choice for him to make. you know it's the attitude, and I think there's a lot of factors in community, but also just in media and in life itself. Like it's one rule for people who are poor and marginalized, and it's another rule for people who are rich with influence and power to be able to cover up the bullshit that they do. People see that. You see it on social media. So that, I think that contributes to a lot of hopelessness and a lot of the mentality of like, yo, fuck it, I'm just gonna do what I gotta do. But as we know, life is long. Consequences can come swiftly, and the system is not fair. What are we doing to hold him accountable, to make him see that? And I think that involves all of us, everybody on this panel, everybody who is witnessing or experiencing violence and drugs and all this, and gangs in their community. What are we doing as a community to hold him accountable? Because the system is just going to put him in jail, and he's going to be out in 5 years. What's really changed while he was inside?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't think he
The
has the
other thing
point.
I want to bring up,
Go ahead.
the other thing I wanted to address was the support. What support is he going to be having while he's in jail and, coming back out in the community when that time comes, right? And, there's an underlying issue. There's no question about it. Will that be addressed? Because we have to remember also, a lot of in the time, somebody's only making a check mark and copying and pasting and passing it on to the next person, right?
Shit, we lost him. His reception was bad. He was about to start cooking right there too. We lost
I
both
know,
Riches.
I know. But I mean, here's the thing, right? These kind of conversations need to be on a continuous basis. You know, one of the things that we started with the Forgiveness Project is having these weekly conversations. I don't know if you peeped it, called Voices of Strength, where it can't just be in moments of crisis where we have these self-analyzing conversations about these problems, because this, like I said, all brilliant people here, no doubt. Rich Kid Sling, like Jordana, you yourself, I respect how you, Friday, how you walk that line between trying to be a journalist, reporting on what's happening in the city, but then at the same time, you have the analytics. You see what people respond to. Like lowest hanging fruit. Like we know this. We know this about hip hop from time. Not to dig it. This is another conversation for another time. But I think hip hop has a way of kind of living in this duality of like, yo, it's just music, it's just entertainment. But then when the entertainment spills out into the streets, like, I don't want to be held accountable for the influence and the impact that I had through my music. It's like, no, when you have a platform and you say these things, it's not about it. Freedom of speech is the right for you to say whatever you want to say, but that doesn't mean freedom from accountability from the influence that your words have. And I think we have to have a much deeper conversation in the culture about taking responsibility for what we say, that you are what you eat. The people you surround yourself with, like the 5 people you surround yourself with are gonna indicate what your life's path is, right? And a lot of these kids are surrounding themselves with the hype, the clout chasers, this alternate reality of trying to become viral on the internet by any means necessary. But it's self-perpetuating, right? And so anyway, I don't want to get too deep with that, but
I just wanted to say something quick before anybody adds something, because when you were saying about the rappers like saying like, oh, it's just the music, what I hear right away is, I ain't your role model, I ain't your parents. Like, come on, bro, you're talking about killing 20 people on your album, bro. You're kind of somebody's parent. There's somebody who don't got a parent who's listening to you.
And don't get me wrong, like you could rap about what you want. You could. I'm not here to police anybody's lyrical content. We came up in an era where there was the grimiest of the grimy, and probably even worse, to a certain extent, the things that people used to wantonly say in their raps. But I mean, the reality of it is, you are influential. Your words influence. It's really just a matter of your choice is whether you give a fuck or you don't.
Yeah.
That's your choice as an artist. But to say that I'm not responsible. What's that?
Sorry, that's something in the background on Rich. So keep going.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but to say that I'm not responsible for raising your kids, like hip hop has raised literally a generation.
Yeah.
Like I would not sit here and lie to you and say the first time I smoked weed, it was probably to a hip hop song.
Some red and meth or something.
It's the culture. The culture has the power to influence change, to influence our perception of ourselves, our self-worth. And a lot of these young kids are finding their self-worth in material things. And in order to make themselves feel validated, they're justifying doing some heinous things so that they can get a little gold chain and these Louis Vuitton and all this kind of stuff that's really just, burning money. They don't know how to spend money because they're not thinking about ownership, just thinking about clout in the moment. I mean, there's so many things that this conversation has to entail, that it can't just be encapsulated in one. And who's the audience? Who's listening? Like, there's so many things that we need to address. And I know I see everybody here on this panel is doing their part. We're all part of the puzzle,
Yeah,
for a
definitely.
bigger goal. Yeah.
Well, that brings me to like our conclusion here, as far as all of the things that we discussed and stuff. What about solutions? What can we do to start looking towards solutions, having a better Toronto for 2026?
I think it takes a matter of putting together what everyone has said. I think part of the problem that I've seen over the last, 15 years of defending guys is that everybody's solution is a good solution, but if it's seen in isolation, it's not working. It's sort of what Solitaire was saying earlier. You can send a kid to jail, but if you're not holding them accountable and also looking at the underlying issues and also making sure that they have support on the other side, and also addressing the environment from which they came. Like if all of those things together aren't being brought into a comprehensive solution, then you've got these gaps that people are falling through. I don't think there's one solution. I think part of the problem has been people have been looking for one solution or one problem, and it's so layered. Like I think everyone on this panel has a different perspective, and everyone's perspective is right. It's not about one person having the right perspective. It's all of these issues have to come together. All of the solutions to each issue have to be addressed in a comprehensive way. I think if anyone is going to be able to change the course of where youth are going right now.
Oh, well said. Well said. Anybody else want to add to that as we wrap up here?
Yeah, I think also
I just wanted
in regards,
Go
you
ahead,
guys can hear
Sanjay.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, even in regards to reaching the youth them at a very early age, like I know we're talking about 14 here, but it looks like we have to go a little bit more deeper in regards to younger, like 9 years old, 8 years old, because social media does play a big part in regards to the mindset of a lot of these youth. And even us as people that work in the community, us collaborating more in regards to building together, making the youth them see like people who they actually look up to, even if it's artists themselves, play a part as well in regards to letting them know what fiction and nonfiction, in regards to the artistry and life.
Oh, that's a fact. Richard, you're gonna say something?
Yes. And I was just going to say, um, we have to, one of the key things also is, like you just mentioned about working together. We're all working in silos. But for instance, Solitaire and I, we go into institutions and we're doing the same work and trying to reach the same audience of individuals where I was never aware, until a while back, who he was and that we're both on the same ground, but we never crossed paths. So these are the things where, we have to come together and work as a collective to really address, the issues and be able to support these individuals. And also we have to call on our government and hold them accountable. It's not just about us, because when we're out here doing the work, but we don't have that, we're grassroots and we don't have that financial support, to continue. You have a program and the program hits a brick wall, but it's very successful program. So we have to keep all that in mind, right? And the social media part of it, when it comes to the youth, that's another big issue there. That's a territory again that's out there that needs to be tackled, to reprogram these kids' mind. They're not having the adults and the mentors that say, hey, what you've seen on social media, don't follow that. That's just nonsense. That's just entertainment, right?
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. And last but not least, Solitaire.
Yes, sir.
The solutions. I know we've got a lot of good answers around there. So
That's a loaded question. How am I gonna sum that up in solutions? That's funny. That's Tara. Tara is always looking for solutions, and we, it's like everybody said, we are all part of the solution. I think that one thing that I found, and I think it speaks to Rich Kid's point too, as far as like what's on social media. Yes, it's very easy to sell the filth and low hanging fruit, but I think representation matters. We have to start focusing and highlighting and shining more light on youth that are doing successful, positive things, starting businesses, doing well in school. Youth that youth inspire youth as much as we're, there's a lot of wisdom lost in the generation gap. I think that, there are OGs that young people that youth respect, but then you have this unk culture, and it's like, yeah, unk, it's like there's kind of like they look at you because you're older, and hip hop has kind of perpetuated this idea of like, if you're over 30, we don't care what you have to say because this is about young people's culture and stuff like that. But there's a lot of wisdom that gets lost there, so we got to reconnect as far as like sharing wisdom from the OGs to the youth, but also from the youth to the OGs, because it's not just about like us telling, sharing wisdom. Thing that we forget too is that youth have their own wisdom. There's the culture that they're coming up in, and yeah, there's problems with social media and all that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of things, a lot of wisdom in their experience that we can't discount. So it has to be a two-way conversation. Otherwise, we're not going to really get to the root cause of the challenges that the youth face from their perspective. So I think it's really an ongoing solution of conversations, of more programs, of people like yourself, Friday, with platforms, which you do. I see you making the effort at least to try and uplift and show that there's not just drill rappers from Toronto, but there's actually dope creative artistry that represents all different lanes: party music, sad boy, Toby, what I'm saying, like lyrical excellence, Shad, all these people that you big up, what I'm saying. So I think you're doing your part, but we also need to shine light. That's where people tend to gravitate towards. So if we shine light on the bullshit and the negativity and who's smoking on who's ops and who's beefing with who, it's like people get caught up in that energy. But we're like, yo, look at what these youth just created. I think I'm forgetting what the name of it is right now, but I think it's like 100 Black boys where Justice McCloud, Jornad, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but they just graduated like 100 Black boys from this academic program where they're expanding their perspective of what they can see themselves doing as a career outside of sports and entertainment. Like, we need to start telling a lot more of those stories so that the youth see that there's other opportunities to become successful, to become seen, to make money and legally and live a fulfilling life full of purpose. But they have to see that in order for them to aspire to it.
No, that's well said right there. I think we got a good conversation over here today. You know what I'm saying? We got to address a lot of topics. Like you were saying, Solitaire, and many of y'all were saying, this is something that we have to make a recurring thing. I'm really, really grateful that everybody was able to tap in and do this with me. Thank you to Jordana. Thank you to Sling Dads. Thank you to Richard Miller, as well as Rich Kid for popping in and doing this. And yeah, like I said, we got to do this again, yo. So
most definitely.
Anytime.
All right,
100%.
I'm gonna end the live over here. Just give me a second.